That's 111 kilometers.
Dude.
All right, there was a preparation exercise in 2009 that we were part of. So we were out on the west coast of Canada in preparation for the 2010 Olympics that were held in Vancouver and Victoria. And in preparation for maritime special operations, we did a ship underway vehicle or vessel interdiction. So the scheme of the exercise was, there was a vessel that was taken over by some hostages, and it was known to have high amounts of explosives, and the intent was for those terrorists to drive that vessel right into the coast of Victoria and cause as much damage and chaos as possible. So that was the premise of the exercise building up to it. And on this particular exercise, our team lead at the time, or what would be referred to as a ground force commander, as we started to develop the plan, the proof of concept was to really push the limits. So we want to see what the guys were capable of. We want to see what the special operations watercraft was capable of in as realistic of a situation as possible. During that evening iteration of the training, we started our SOC infill, so surface insertion, with the special operations craft with the majority of the assault force. So in planning and preparation to build redundancy in the plan, we have a helo assault force, and then we have a surface assault force in this particular exercise. So the surface assault force, they take off from a staging area, which was what we were given at the time, 60 nautical miles from where the vehicle was expected to be hit. So the target of opportunity, as the vessel was in motion moving towards Victoria at that time, we staged at a location that was 60 nautical miles. So for 60 nautical miles, for people that are unaware, that's 110 kilometers on the ground. So to travel 110 kilometers in a special operations watercraft during sea state, 2.5, 3 at some points at night, for those that have no idea, this is not an easy feat for sure. And as we are infilling to get closer to basically interdict this vessel, as you can imagine, SOC is moving. These SOC drivers, yes, they're equipped with NVGs, but you can imagine the sea spray onto the tubes of the night vision doesn't really work, not overly effective. So a lot of times the NVGs would be flipped up just because there would be no use with all of the sea splash onto the tubes. So these boat drivers, awesome guys. They earn every cent of their keep. They would do everything off of throttle response and feel. So as you can imagine, we've got a special operations watercraft with between 8 and 12 guys in the back of the vehicle. And they're, undulating with the ocean movement, and on the throttle as they climb waves, and then off the throttle just as the bow of the SOC would drop. That way you're not, launching off of waves and smashing the guys, the assault force that are in the back. So as we take off from the staging area, we're thinking 60 nautical miles. Okay, we're gonna be in this vessel for a couple hours for sure. As the dusk turned to night, the throttle response and these boat drivers, they're doing everything by feel. So on the throttle, off the throttle, constantly climbing waves, dropping into waves, climbing waves, dropping into waves. And as this goes on, we're probably an hour into it, guys are starting to get sick. So the assault force, you see guys, literally leaning over the side of the SOC, puking, and it's just disaster. And as this goes on, we're losing guys, and they're dropping left and right. And one guy that I used to work with, great dude, just a pleasure to be around. He's a wealth of knowledge, and he's just a fun personality. He is my team leader at the time, and he is getting really sick. So much so that not only is he throwing up, he with a sense of panic on his face, he's screaming at me at one point to help him unzip his swimmer suit. So a swimmer suit is basically a suit for protection against the elements, and then all your assault gear would go over top of that. So he's frantically ripping all of his gear off, and he's asking me to give him a hand unzipping the suit because he needs to take a shit. And it's just involuntary. His system is shutting down, and his poop is coming out. He's like, Randy, help me, get this thing off. I need to take a shit, And as I'm helping him, and these swimmer suits, sometimes the zipper moves smoothly, sometimes it doesn't. And of course, Murphy's Law, this particular time, I'm fighting with the zipper to get it off, and he's in a panic because he's about to soil his pants. And at one point, we got about halfway down, and this sheer disappointed look on his face, his shoulders dropped, put his head down. He's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then it was, quick, zip it up, it stinks. Zip it up, it stinks. So he zipped it back up, and he literally went on for the rest of this particular iteration with a suit full of his own feces. So you can imagine, unpleasant day for him, unpleasant day for a lot of guys. Myself personally, I'm pretty fortunate that stuff doesn't affect me too much. So I don't know if this actually made the situation worse for my buddy, for my team leader, but I was actually having a dip at the time. So, having a little sip of water and, kind of dipping in another bottle as we're, undulating through the water terrain. And meanwhile, he's getting sick. So I don't know if I made the situation worse, but it definitely didn't help anything. So anyway, kind of a funny story in preparation for the 2010 Olympics. It was a lesson learned the hard way. I understand why the officer in command at the time wanted to push the limits, but the key lesson learned and takeaway from that is, a situation like that where the sea state is really unforgiving and unpredictable, at all costs, as best as possible, we would, stage a little bit closer so that surface assault force would infill at a shorter distance if possible. So good story, fun story during a training exercise that ended up being a success at the end, but we literally lost, I think, 25% of our assault force during that iteration. Guys were just too sick and incapacitated to do their job.